Yo, what's up everybody? It's iShades and we're back again with another video, and today we're going to be discussing about Farlight. I am not alone. I am accompanied by rival diff owner, my former boss. What's up, rival?
Hey, what's going on, Shades?
Nothing much, man. I have a lot of things I want to share about Farlight 84.
The game that brought us all together.
Yes, man, wasn't Farlight 84 so fun in the times when
Dude,
we were competing?
Farlight 84 was very fun. I loved Farlight, especially because back then, even though I had the PC, bro, remember I wanted to play on the iPhone and I was using the gyro on the iPhone, and it's like that was so cool back then, like that it had it all enabled. It looked like I was playing a PC game on phone.
And you made a really good point the other day. It was a very solid point towards the player base and going off my reaction, because he said that when I would compete, I mean, you know, I'm a very emotional person. When I would compete, I would be more invested into the game, and you've come to realize that you don't see many players that invested, well, streamers and content creators.
Right, yeah, the point I was making was the fact that like the general reaction of the player based on what's happening in the game, like the excitement, like they're reacting like, "Oh my god, that I can't believe that just happened! Wow, oh, yo, I just got him, one right here." Oh, it's like that used to be at a much greater fever pitch. You could tell it used to be like that when you watched, any of these main streamers or content creators. There's just that heart pounding, this
The passion,
excitement, that yeah, that passion.
the
That's a great word
passion.
for it, right? Like you see the game right now with the new like introduction of the buddy, where it's like, yo, this is cool, but it's more like somebody trying to figure out if they can like this more than just like, yo, this is awesome. And Farlight had that effect to begin with. A new player would come in, they would just play like 4 or 5 games. They would be like, "Yo, this is awesome," and they would stay for 2,000 hours playing Farlight. Now I have a very hard time unless somebody like wants to collect Pokemon. I don't understand how they're gonna that alone is gonna generate a player base.
Collecting Pokemon, and if I'm going to be honest with you,
I would rather buy a Game Boy and play Pokemon Blue.
yes, I agree with that. And they just have no personality. These buddies are just there. They're just floating. They have zero personality. I mean, they've done a great job at balancing them. I don't feel like any of them are actually overpowered. I really enjoyed the one that looks like Voltor. It looks like a Pokeball. I really enjoy that one. It just blows up when you throw it. It's like a grenade, right? But besides that, man, they don't really have any personality. And one more thing that I would really like to discuss about is the identity crisis at this point. I mean, what is Farlight 84, right? Farlight 84 calls himself a tactical hero shooter. But if we're gonna be honest, these heroes aren't really heroes. They're more like agents. Uh I've never seen a hero besides Batman be slowed down. I mean, Batman is pretty much human. He's just very smart and has an insane ability at martial arts. But these heroes are from other planets. They have abilities. I don't know, man. You tell me. What are these rival? Are they agents or are they heroes?
Well, I think that they serve like both purposes. Whether you want to call them an agent or a hero, it's kind of like do you call them heroes or agents in Valorant? Like depending on who you ask, they might say one or the other. It's more along the lines of, is this a hero shooter or is this a tactical shooter, right? Like because a tactical shooter kind of doesn't placate towards the different agent design. It's like everybody sort of has the same dynamic across the board, right? So like when Halo, if you remember, like when you used to play like Halo, it while they're quote unquote, you know, it's like an agent, like, well, when you played, you just picked like 3 different guns, you know, that's it. There was guns on the map, and it was like attack. It was just only tactics and aim, like that was gonna, you know, determine who was gonna win. There wasn't like any hero agent, you know, hero ability to it, which is like heroes providing the utility in the game, you know, and that's where I think Farlight has a major identity crisis in the semblance of like, well, it is a hero, it is a hero shooter, period, right? And
Yes.
then they add buddies, which is another form of utility to do what? Make it more tactical shooter? Like that's where I don't understand what are they doing and why are they doing these things, right? Like
I completely agree. And
I
if
have I have a question for you, right, about this identity crisis that is maybe something you can even ask your YouTube community. If Pow World never came out and succeeded, would Farlight have ever done anything with buddies in a Hey
never,
Buddy system?
never.
Right. I
You
don't think they
could
would have ever
100,
done it.
could
Did they have the
100% that
idea?
you could tell 100% that this was inspired by Power World. Yes, they copy Pokemon in some ways, but this was inspired by Power World. And just looking at the time frame from right now with the buddies to around that time, they obviously said, well, look at Power World, let's add it into our battle royale. So they pretty much went AFK on the community just to focus on creating these buddies, which
Right. And then and that makes me think that they don't care about the players as much as you would want from a dev team, and it's more about maybe saving the project because they've lost so much money with it so far. I don't know, you know, I'm
I feel like
kind of speculating.
they're looking for a way to attract the younger audience, right? Because that's the main attraction. I mean, look at Fortnite. Fortnite blew up because of its younger audience, and I feel like that's what they're trying to go for. They're like, well, let's add these buddies, and it could bring people into the game, and maybe they will get invested into the buddies. But the buddies just, they said they have no personality whatsoever. These buddies are just there floating, and one of them makes a weird sound that it sounds like a child. It's actually very creepy. It's like, hey buddy. It's absolutely creepy. It creeps me out.
I've heard it.
And I'm like, dude, it sounds weird. It does not sound appealing to my ears whatsoever. And it's just they it's like, what is this? And one more, you know, I would like to make one more point, and it's like a little small detail going back to the identity crisis. Farlight is supposed to be taking place in in what year? It's supposed to be in the future, am I correct?
It is. You know, I forget the year because I'm thinking of this other game I play, and they like said the year.
I think it's supposed to be 2084 or something like that, around there. Am I right or wrong? I could be wrong. So
I have no idea.
The point,
I'd have to look it up.
The point of Farlight, they're supposed to be in the future, right? Why would they add guns from current time? I mean, doesn't make sense. Like, you look at Apex Legends, you look at Halo, they don't have an AK-47. They don't have an M4. Because those guns are in the past. It's like when you play Call of Duty and you grab an MP40, right?
I see what you mean. That's a good point, right? Like, and that just further highlights like the idea of this identity crisis. Like, and dude, you see some of the new games that have come out, they just invent an entire new class of weapons.
An entire new class. It's like, look at Valorant. Valorant's like their whole class is, those weapons are made on their own. Like, for example, like Farlight 84 had the Jupiter back then. Right? The Jupiter was an energy gun, and it just made sense because they're in the future, right? Just like Halo has the battle rifle, right? So some people be like, well, it's an M16. No, it's not an M16. It's its own gun in the future called the battle rifle.
Right. And then like the idea of they have the DMR, in Valorant, that gun's called a Guardian, and they have 2 other types of forms of guns that are one shot kill type headshot guns, and it's like they're not just called a bar, which a bar, dude, what is a bar? Like a bar is a fucking a World War II, like gun. So,
Yeah.
and it's not even like they do this like updated, like make it like look like really like new age and give it like bar something, like.
Well, I would tell you this. Back then, when I first played Farlight 84, and I came across the M4 on the ground or the AK, the gun had like a different look to it. It had like a rust look. So it's like, I like that idea where it's like, well, these guns, going by the current age of Farlight, these guns were like classic guns, right? That you'll find in the game, but now it's like every gun, like the UMP, the Vector, the AK-77, the M4, I mean, you have the Scar now in the game, but the Scar is called something else, but it still looks like a Scar. So it's like they put these guns into the game, into their world, that it doesn't match with each other. For example, you have Fortnite that does that. The Fortnite has the Scar, right? But Fortnite's world could mix anything in it because we've seen it ourselves. Farlight can't do that. Farlight went the futuristic route. And if you're going to go the futuristic route, and then that's why I say, going back to the whole agent thing, what are these heroes? What are these characters? Because nothing matches anymore. Why are they holding their breath to snipe if they're heroes? See, like these things, just one thing doesn't match one another. The whole holding breath feature, it's cool, right? It's something different. You're adding realism, but
So like I don't like that. I personally think that just further complicates the identity crisis of Farlight
exactly
even more, just over and over and over.
And we fall
Compounds
back
it to
into the same thing.
It's max potential. Like, yo, just leave the breath holding to Call of Duty. Like that was their thing. I think maybe, or was it Battlefield thing first? Like one of those 2 games, at least from my memory bank, had it first. It was either Call of Duty or Battlefield that had like you had to hold shift in order to have like steady crosshair. Like just dude, those games are over a decade old. That feature's a decade old.
And going
Leave
to
it. And guess what? What's the movement speed of those games, right? Like, why are you holding your breath in a game that has a movement speed that's already like a turtle?
That's facts.
Like Call of Duty had to do that because they needed to like make it so you could like the sniper was balanced based on its movement speed. Now it feels extra. It's like the helmets, like it all feels a little like there just feels like there's extra stuff in Farlight that doesn't belong at all. And you don't understand why it belongs. Like who is the dev team consulting with to get this feedback that this is what players want? And I think that's why we're even making this video, right? They're making a game that gives you the question as like a very hardcore gamer in a sense, over decades of gaming, all different games. Why are they making a game that gives you the impression that nobody wants it? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
It's like you look at the overall player base of every game. Nobody wants this slow tactical shooter. Nobody wants that anymore. That's something of the past, and games have evolved.
They'll take a slow-based tactical shooter, but they don't want it with
not like this.
Well, they don't. The thing is Farlight isn't a tactical shooter, right? It's a hero.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
It's an arcade hero shooter. So why does it have a tactical shooter's pace? Like, it doesn't make any sense at all.
If we brought a tactical shooter player, somebody that loves the tactical shooter genre, and they try Farlight, they will quit in an instant. Because it's not. It's they're
in February of last year. right after the jetpacks were removed, and they had jet slide, and they had even fairly simple new maps under realms. Okay, if they would have added a couple more zip lines to things and maybe jump pads on the map, if you had somebody who played Counter-Strike hop on the game and play, the first thing that they would tell you that they don't like about it is that it's third person and not first person. It would have nothing to do with what is this game? Like, what is it's complicated? What is a buddy? What is this? Like, it's fairly easy to adopt, right? Like, oh, hey, dude, I love this. There's this cool game. Try it out. Yeah, play Maggie. She's got a jetpack. And all of a sudden, your friend who played Counter-Strike or Apex or whatever is just on the game, popping off, hitting heads, and it's great. And they have fun, and they stay on, and they want to play more. Now, dude, now what? Like you need to get your PUBG friend who will play something this slow.
Right, and not even the PUBG community would honestly be invested in this, because like I said, there's no defensive character. It's just purely offensive. Nobody here is defensive. So it's where's the tactical aspect of the game? Because we spoke about earlier today about Apex. You asked me, what do you consider Apex? I said Apex is an arcade shooter. I consider it an arcade shooter. Does it have its tactical aspects? Yes, it does. I mean, when you play Caustic or you play Gibby or you play Catalyst, like though timing your abilities and using them at certain key points is a tactical feature in the game. But the core mechanic of the game itself is arcade. So this is why we just bounce our head back and forth. What is Farlight? Right? Because it's too slow. And nobody wants slow anymore. People are tired of slow. If you want to play slow, you play PUBG. Right? They should have just went a PUBG.
Hey, I'll give you a great example of Farlight, of how I think about Farlight right now. Okay, so today it's September of 2024. I've known and been a part of Farlight since the very beginning, and I didn't grind the early days because I was still playing T3 a lot, but I was playing TDM back then, and then in November 2023, I got really big into the scene and played quite extensively with all you guys. Well, something I always look at is the Steam charts on Farlight, which don't include any mobile numbers. Okay, all-time peak was at 40,000, right?
Yes,
dude. There's games that release on Steam that still want to get all-time peaks in the over 20, 30, 40,000 range, right?
Yes.
And it's like, dude, they kept 10 plus thousand players for months and months and months on end, and then what? The dev team sits in a meeting and that doesn't mean anything to them, right? Like, that's the real head scratcher. Like why were the decisions made when they were made? Because Farlight used to literally keep people hyper engaged. You could see it by the numbers.
I used to play for hours.
Are not even reflective of the real numbers. The all-time peak high was 40,000. Maybe with all the mobile players, the all-time peak high really is in the 125k range.
I agree.
Which is much bigger to a bigger type of game release than anything. You just had literally Concord, and $800 million budget game that took almost a decade to make.
Did you see the Steam charts for that? It was terrible.
Pulled offline in 2 weeks because the game and the feedback from the community is so bad, and they built a game that nobody wanted.
And I'll tell you this. What happened with Concord? Movement was too slow for a hero shooter, because that was a complaint that a lot of people made. The heroes had no personality. Who were they? And it's just the same issue, an identity crisis.
And getting back to this idea of the player count, though, and how important the player community is, it's like Farlight had 40,000 people just on Steam alone engaged at one point, with an average retention of minimum 10,000 people for
It was doing
months and
better than
months on
Halo
end.
Infinite on
And
PC.
it was doing better than PUBG. I mean not PUBG. Battlefield 2142.
Yeah.
So why how the group of people sat in a meeting and made the decisions that they made, totally shunning any of the Northeast, the North American or South American regions, European regions, when they had a game that was successful, doesn't make sense to me. That's the whole thing.
Whatsoever.
That's why you keep coming back to Farlight. You hope maybe they can fix it. Maybe something will happen. Maybe it'll change. Maybe because it's like, dude, the trajectory of Farlight, and it was a unanimous. You had multiple big name YouTube streamers with 100+ viewers night after night in their channels watching these kids play Farlight. You had mobile players doing some of the most incredible stuff you've ever seen on mobile games in this game.
I got a reality check with that one, remember? I was like, wow, these mobile kids are, you know, I was surprised. These mobile guys are, they have skill. Well, guys and women, they have skill to hang.
Kunai was a great example of somebody who was just an unbelievable mobile player.
Look at Kaiser. Kaiser, it's phenomenal on mobile. That's another one I could talk about, and Slayer as well. And they could hang against PC and controller players.
And there are some issues with the balancing of PC and mobile, but for the most part,
and controller has, and still to this day, they don't know what to do with a controller. Now it has no aim assist.
But in the beginning, it was far more balanced, far more easy. You could have a controller player, a PC player, and a mobile player all on a team. They could go up against a full mobile team and win or lose. They could go up against a full PC team and win or lose.
Yeah.
It didn't have huge bearings on these are the kids that are going to win the game because of this input. And I just find it very confusing how they had such a successful game with such great the graphics were good. It worked on both of my mobile devices, my iPhone 8 or 9S or something.
Oh yeah, the game was so well optimized.
12. So it was super optimized, and it was all they had to do was not do more to mess with the game, maybe a couple quality of life things.
Oh, you heard what's happening? Sorry to cut you off.
To, build the community, open up, North American, have a North American land or something.
And listen to this. Sorry to cut you off, but there's a lot of people struggling with optimization with the game right now. The game is barely playable for many people. I've heard their frames are dropping to 40. Imagine on my PC it's dropping to 100. And I really like the route where they went visually. The game looks amazing visually, I will give it that, but they can't do these big changes when there's a lot of people that and I'm sorry if I say this and someone takes it wrong, but not everybody has an iPhone, not everybody has a high-tech device at their home to be able to play Farlight. And I'm pretty sure that the majority of their player base was the low-end players. And now, what happens to those players that they can't play because their low-end devices can't hang with this upgraded version of Farlight? So that's another issue that's going on that I've been reading in the comments. A lot of people are struggling being able to play the game now, and now the game is unplayable. They have crazy lag. I thought the game was going to be more optimizable, but it's not. Like I said, visually it looks great, but a lot of people are being affected by the game visually. And talking about visually, right? What do you think about the scopes? I think the scopes look phenomenal. They look great. But if I'm
outside of the guns being, what we touched on, more sort of old school in a new school game, it's the guns aren't any of the major issues. Notice we don't often talk about how the guns are major issues, how they, their TTK or what like their scopes or any of their like their sounds or their
Oh, the
functionality.
sounds sound amazing. The
It's
gun sounds, they actually nailed it on that aspect. The gun sounds,
they've done well.
they did a great job in gun sound, and the scopes look amazing, but I feel like the scope is an illusion to
I'll tell you
cover a bigger problem of the game, which we all thought, looking at the new guns and the iron sights and the red dots, the gunplay is the same. We were completely lied to, because if I'm gonna be honest with you, you get shot, you get slowed down. The, visually, it still looks the same. There's not a big difference between the gunfights within this version and the version before. What now?
right.
You just have better gun sound, pretty much, but the gunplay it's still the same, right? And we go
Right, and
back.
that's another thing. Like we talk about, you say gun sounds, and that's another thing that reminds me of like talking about a tactical shooter. Like, this in a way, this can't be a highly tactical shooter because the audio is so bad.
Oh, the
Right,
audio is terrible now.
like
You can't hear anything.
It's the audio isn't there to give you that any of the tactical advantage of like, well, I was quiet when I needed to be quiet. I was loud. I used sound to trick somebody. It's
No,
like
there's no sound. They took out the visual footsteps out, and you have no sound. I mean,
and like the
you were
visual
watching me
footsteps.
play. Somebody took a pad right behind me, and I did not hear him whatsoever.
I know. Hey, I'll give you an unpopular opinion on Farlight about what they actually really like, what they need to do, and the only hope that they have to save their game. They need to pull the game offline right now. They need to like tell their entire community that
I
they're
agree.
taking a 3-month break. They're pulling the entire game. Nobody can play it. All account data will be saved, and they're going to do a relaunch in this, January of 2025.
And just
Work
change
with
the heroes,
with
turn them into
all
agents at that point.
work with all of the Philippine pro players from season 1 and 2 of the FPL out there, and actually play test everything. Have everything be play tested. When you relaunch the game, relaunch something that's not going to need massive updates in a month or 2 months that are going to completely overhaul the entire characteristic of how the game is played. Right? So like since February of 2023, the entire game and the overhaul of the game and how it has been played has been changed. I would say like
90%.
5 times.
I would say 90%.
Massively.
This is nothing what Farlight was when I first played in February of 2023 whatsoever. I fell in love with the original version. I felt the game had the perfect, it had the perfect balance between casual and sweaty play. Like, cause you remember back then, right? I mean, when they added the jet sliding and I started playing, how much fun I'll have playing the game casually. Like, I mean, the game was fun casually because it fit between the perfect, it fit in the perfect middle, right? I felt like
Exactly.
it fit from, like, you had a pretty good decent, like I had 40 players in my lobbies and then 20 bots, right? And the game just felt arcadey. You didn't feel like you were running in mud. And talk about running in mud, like we have to talk because we're about to end this right here. We're already in almost 30 minutes. The FOV, man. I was playing a game called Outriders. Have you ever heard of Outriders?
Yeah.
And I was looking at the visually, right? And how the FOV of the game covers the players, it's like around the hip area, the mid thigh area. And that's where Farlight is when it comes down to FOV. The game is very zoomed in, like if I'm playing a campaign. And I know they're adjusting speed, but why do they have to adjust the FOV and make the game look like it's a campaign? Have you ever noticed that? That the FOV at 90 of this game is like a campaign game, a solo player game.
Well, they changed it, if you remember.
Yeah, it used to be 100.
No, it
So
used to be 120, didn't it?
no,
It
no, it
was
was 100.
before it was
100.
110.
No, no,
Like
no,
we
no.
used to be able to have a pretty high
No,
FOV setting.
I believe it was 100, and I felt like 100 was perfect. It was so perfect in the game. I mean, it helped with a major issue that I don't know if it's still in the game, but sometimes when you would like be walking across a window, your character model would zoom in, right? Visually, the game will zoom in, and it would affect me in fights because sometimes I'll be fighting in a building in sunset, and I'll pass by a window, and all of a sudden I'm zoomed in, and it'll throw me in fights. To be honest with you, but I heard they're going first person. I'm not sure if you've heard of that yet, Rival. They want to release a first person mode, which I made a prediction on that. And that's why they slowed down the movement. That's why they slowed down a lot of things. But man, visually, the FOV in this game, how slow the characters move. Rival, I'm going to be honest with you. This update's absolute trash.
It doesn't work for me.
It does not
And
work. I gave it a try. I really did. But I'm gonna be honest. And even if Farlight contacted me and they told me, hey, we want you to speak positive about our game, I'll be like, I'm sorry. I'm always state my opinions. And
right.
it's
And one of the biggest issues being that they have gaslighted the community, right? So
big time.
the community did get gaslighted, right? I mean, dude, thinking about how far Farlights came from the original concept of the game, are there even vehicles in the game anymore that are viable or functional? No. Do people do anything that's cool that would make you want to really tune in to watch, like when Zach Wilder or Icy, or any of the, Kai would do crazy, jump out of planes, do a shot, and then
Oh
quickly
no,
kill
you
somebody
can't.
all before.
You
No,
can't.
none of that. So what makes this, oh my God, where's that exciting factor? Catching a buddy? I mean, I don't know.
And the
Probably
buddies have no personality.
right.
They're just as useless. They're just useless. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you.
If you
I
wanted
they
my opinion, they'll take the buddy system so far as to make it like an extraction shooter, and Farlight will become like a buddy extraction shooter.
Oh yeah, at this point, I wouldn't even be surprised if they're like, you know what they say in the meeting, hey guys, I woke up today and I had a dream, and man, let's just turn Farley into a into an extraction shooter, and let's just have the buddies be the
Right.
the main attraction of the game in the extraction. Oh man, I wouldn't be surprised at this point. I feel like Farlight, it's in a honeymoon stage where where a lot of people are loving it, but watch. People are gonna start getting tired of it, and they're gonna start complaining because it's gonna get stale. Like I've said in a previous video, the game is gonna get stale. It's too slow. The gunplay is the same. Nothing really changed, to be honest with you. And
Well, the update hasn't budged any of the player count numbers. Like nothing's changed with the update over the last couple of days. So, we'll see as we go on. But I'll tell you what, like, will I put any additional time into Farlight? No, I won't. Will I put any additional time building a team or sponsoring any of the teams around Farlight like I used to monetarily? No. And that's really just the current, state of basically the current state of the game. And I used to love it. It was a great game.
oh man, yeah, Farlight, old Farlight just will always be special. It will have a special place in my memory. It was my getaway from Apex when Apex was in a very bad state, and I kind of didn't have anything else that I enjoyed, and then I came across Farlight and I was like, wow man, this is actually fun. But sadly, we don't have that fun anymore. It's game is just not what it used to be.
Nope.
And we're gonna wrap it up right there. Rival, thank you for joining me in this conversation.
You're welcome. Appreciate the dialogue about the game we once loved. hopefully the devs can work out some of the kinks, and if not, then we know what'll happen. Goodbye, Farlight.
Goodbye, Farlight. I don't. This makes me so sad, man. It makes me so sad. Why can't they just get it right? Just get it right, man. And you will have players coming back. But I think you're right. I think you're right. They have to just close down the game and disappear for a while.
Yeah, announce like a relaunch, like as if it was like a new game.
Yeah, so sad, man. Well, that's pretty much it. Thank you, Rival.
All right, buddy. You have a good day, and hopefully your audience is having more fun on Farlight than we were.
100%. All right, guys, be safe. Catch you on the next one. Rival, Eye Shades, we out.